Hola, estoy de vuelta. Soy Amani, y esta noche I'm going to talk about why I'm no longer tracking comprehensible input. And I will start off by saying, I love comprehensible input. How could you not? It's literally what helps us learn a language, it helps us learn and understand what we are reading and what we are listening to. Okay? So this is not a video of me saying I disagree with the theory of comprehensible input and I refuse to buy into the idea that comprehensible input is necessary for language learning. I'm not arguing that. Comprehensible input is necessary for language learning. What's not necessary for language learning is tracking the comprehensible input. And yes, I started off tracking. And like most things that I start off and get kind of crazy with, it serves its purpose. You know, I'm going to go, like, my train's going to go this way, but stay with me for a second. I used to be heavy into bodybuilding, and I was very much a tracking type of bodybuilder. I would track my macros and my micros. And yes, I would track the overall calories when I was in the thick of my bodybuilding journey. And it served its purpose because now that I do not track, I am able to gauge without being meticulous, without being crazy with the amount, like every single thing I eat, I need to input it into MyFitnessPal. Like, it's not that serious anymore. Now I'm able to see visually, like, okay, that's a lot of fat I'm doing. I know that has a lot of sugar in it. Maybe I should eat 3 of those today. Or like, okay, I had this much protein. I need more protein today. So I'm able to do that because I hardcore tracked at one point. So I'm going to give the same kudos to the tracking of the comprehensible input. When I first started, it motivated me and it also gave me some sort of idea of how many hours it would take until I was able to understand, I guess, just a lot more. I still struggle with the idea of these arbitrary numbers of being like, okay, you're now a beginner, you're now a novice, you're now a XYZ. Because I'm realizing now that I could be very far in a language learning journey, but still be very far from fluency. And that is both empowering and, yes, you could say it's a little bit discouraging. The reason it's empowering is because you start to realize that the numbers do not matter. And the numbers vary person by person. And if I'm being honest, to be able to track the numbers when you've truly immersed yourself in a language becomes very, very, very difficult. All things are possible, right? I'm not going to say you don't track someone doesn't track every single minute of their, language learning, and they take every second that they've gotten comprehensible input and they mark it down. Maybe they do. But what I'm starting to realize is when you're in the thick of language learning, when you start to immerse yourself in the culture more and more every day, you're listening to the music, you're listening to podcasts willingly. You are going to the mercados in your city. You're speaking to native people on a daily. You are interacting with people who are Hispanic, Latino, who speak Spanish. When you start to do that on a daily basis, you start to realize that tracking is freaking hard. I don't know at this point how many hours of comprehensible input I have. And if I'm being honest, it doesn't really make a difference because when I start to realize, I know that I'm going to spend well over 2,000 hours learning a language. And that's okay. And that's realistic. And to think any other way, in my opinion, would be detrimental to the idea of learning for learning's sake and kind of the antithesis of how learning works. Like, we know that we can't quantify learning and we can't quantify how much we will actually be learning in this amount of hours, because there's so many variables that would affect that end result. But anyways, all that to say, I'm not tracking anymore, because I'm starting to realize that this is a life thing. And if I want to be committed to learning Spanish, it's beyond a number and it's beyond anything I can track. So here's to learning language, learning Spanish for learner's sake, and here's to, continuing to track the progress, but without the numbers. All right. Estaré de vuelta. Hasta la próxima.